mass black hole binaries, and I'm going to present a multi-mission view. And with respect to the title of this workshop, National Perspective, I'll be highlighting some of the national results which probably were not mentioned earlier, or some of them could be a repetition. So, major portion of the results are by my research scholar, Atulya, and my collaborator for a decade, Dr. Anuj Nandi, has been there always for the discussion. Well, we started with this particular diagram in the morning. So where you have a compact object at the center, the black hole at the center, then the disk, the pulling of the matter from the companion, and yes, there is some jet ejection happening. So this was explored by several people, especially what was happening within the disk in the X-rays, and then came this kind of general understanding of how the hardness ratio varies with respect to intensity of the source. So you had been seeing this earlier. Interestingly, this was for GX339-4, which unfortunately had very minimal radio observations during its previous two complete outbursts. So we have the hard state where it's a steady jet, and this is where the linear relation between the X-ray luminosity and radioluminosity have been established by Colville. And for it reaches to a phase of transition over here, that is when the relativistic jets, which are optically thin, ejected out. And once it reaches the substrate, the jet will be quenched. Now, I would like to go back to almost a decade before when I started studying this particular topic. And I started with this particular source 1859 plus 226. And these are the RST observations. So this is the ASM light curve, and below I have shown the radio. So you can see that for some cases, there were like kind of near simultaneous radio observations showing the flux variations. So there were like 5 flares which we could identify based on the radio observations, and I marked as F11225. But the initial radio observations were continuous, but later it became very sparse. Major highlight, thanks for Mayuk for mentioning one of them in his talk. Major highlight was that, so initially the QPO rises as it is in the hard and hard intermediate state. And when there is a transition to the soft intermediate state, there is suddenly, for a few hours, when the QPO is not observed, and then it reappears. Similar characteristics continue during the other flares also. Along with that, the power spectra characteristics change, that is the fractional RMS or the total RMS decreases. And also the energy spectra becomes softer, thermal compensation. The compensation component reduces, the flux reduces for the hard component. And for 5 flares, matching with the radio detection, we were able to have understanding. Well, similar results we got when we could identify at this particular situation, something similar happened when there was a QPO, and then again it vanished off. But there was no radio detection here. So this was like a possible detection of a radio flare. Now, this picture also was shown by Mayuk. This was by another source, H1743-322. We also had kind of diagnosed this source. So as he mentioned in the morning, so this is 2nd June when the radio flux is very minimal. That is when you have a type C QPO. And this 5th June, when the lobe has been already separated, that means ejection has already happened. So there was a time gap, but nevertheless, based on the timing results, Miller-Jones et al. Was able to give a representation of how the matter gets ejected from the nearby innermost portion of the disk. Well, we studied this for almost 8 sources during the period of 2011 to 2016. I would say in several conferences and publications we have presented this. And the common observations are this: QPOs are not present whenever an ejection happens, RMS power decreases, spectra becomes softer, and for most of the sources, it was happening in the soft intermediate state when the transition happened with the SIMS. And unfortunately, not always there was simultaneous X-ray and radio observation. Sometimes there was a delay. And the QPOs does reappear after a few hours or days. Interestingly, for some sources, there has been a partial absence of QPO. So what do I say as partial absence? When I do an energy-dependent study of the power spectra, I see that this particular thing happens only, say, this is in 2 to 5 keV. So in a particular energy band, only it was seen. We generalized this, and it was specified in a paper in 2016, MNRS. Most of the sources which we considered were in this particular region of soft intermediate state transition, except this 1836 minus 194, which showed these characteristics in the hard intermediate state. It was a failed outburst, but significant radio detection was there, and the radio detection was explained in detail by Russell et al. Also. So, followed it up with B404 Cygni, and we were able to again observe characteristic changes in the spectra, energy spectra. This is new star energy spectra. So we see that the spectra becomes softer when the ejection happened. And B404 Cygni, this particular outburst, it went into multiple ejections in radio, X-ray, and all other bands. And major changes were seen in the spectra, and also in the power spectra, the RMS declined. But yes, this was for the first time when we did not see a QPO before or after. So, and also another point to be noticed was this source was, unlike other transient sources, this never had a proper HID, the proper Q shape. It was so random, the HID was very, very random. In addition, there has been presence of wind detected, and we could study the ion line variation and confirm that one also. So outflows of two kinds were determined in this particular source. So old is obviously always gold. So GRS 1915 plus 105 is what I'm going to talk about in detail. So first discovered in 1992, but the highlight of what we have been talking earlier, Professor Yadav had shown you this particular figure earlier. So that is when these dips occur. This is a beta class he mentioned. So when these X-ray dips occurred and ejection happened, and first peaked in infrared and later in radio. So this came as a Nature publication by Mirabel, and they are studied in detail. But not to forget that we had an Indian X-ray astronomy experiment, the IRS-P3 on board, and so many studies, especially by BCG Paul and group, had happened on this particular GRS 1915 plus 105, and there are so many publications using Indian X-ray astronomy experiment, followed with RST also. Significant results were seen by RST. I'm talking about the overall X-ray characteristics, that is the spectra and the rapid timing changes. Now, Fender et al. In 2004, they performed some theoretical explanation, and they said that this is due to the ejection, whatever is happening in IR and radio is due to the synchrotron emission, which is in a jet. And X-ray emission could be a tracer of the accretion flow. Major highlight, yes, going back a bit in years, is Perosi 1999, when he said that whenever there is a plasma which enters a boundary region, where QPO can occur, and something is happening which disturbs this entire system, and kind of temporary disappearance of the QPO, or a temporary disappearance of the inner portion of the disk. So that was for the first time when such understanding came into picture. Now, I would like to highlight the theta class observation. So by two groups, I would say, or one under this name, Sachindra Nayak and A.R. Rao and Santosh Vatavale et al. And so they also said about the soft dips, whenever the soft dips were occurring, and they correlated with the high radio emission. Fender et al. Also reported this. Now, coming to Santosh Vatavale's paper, he talks about how Comptonized component is not present during these soft dips, and how the Comptonized matter is what could be ejected out into the jets, and it is coming out from the innermost region of the accretion disk. Well, so this obviously needed a theoretical support. This was an A&A letter in 2001. So the theoretical support came from this, the magnetized component flow model by Nandi et al., or also called as magnetic rubber band effect. Professor Sanjeev Chakraborty mentioned this in his talk. So we had been hearing about the Keplerian and sub-Keplerian flow, which produces an oscillating shock. And because of this region is produced, which they term as Sen ball, or else this is nothing but the corona, the region of hot electrons. So what if the companion star had a magnetic field? What if it is a late type star and has a magnetic field along with it? And say the magnetic field. Now, obviously, we have the evidence for magnetic field in a black hole by the EHT. So when the magnetic field is present, as the matter is flowing in, the flux tubes also gets amplified, and that collapses catastrophically, pulling out this entire matter in the corona, which gets resulted into jet.
2 minutes.
Okay, I'll be quick. So based on this understanding, we were able to understand, we were able to interpret most of the sources which I mentioned earlier. Coming on to the recent GRS 1915+105, almost 31 observations were there by ASTROSAT. You can see that this rising phase is similar to a rising phase of a black hole binary. Here also there is a systematic evolution of QPOs, and which all of a sudden there is an absence, transition happening to softer classes. But yes, there is no radio detection mentioned during that. So, but we did find several classes and class transitions which were not reported earlier, and that work is under review in MNRS. My focus is going to be this last stage when the flux almost dropped down, but the source started showing something different. So this is the Raton 600 radio light curve, and along with that we have put the other radio observation. This is by MALA and this is by Metsahood. When the AMALA detected, that is 13th, 16th and 17th May of 2019, there was a continuous increase in the radio flux. Along with that, ASTROSAT had observed this Jitesh telegram, I would like to refer here, and then ASTROSAT observed X-ray phase at the same time. Back to following to next observation, which was in June, again a radio detection. There is no ASTROSAT observation, but we do have others. Then again, coming to the next one was in November, sometime in November, there is again a radio flux, where again we have X-ray observation, but not by ASTROSAT. Last one was in February 2020. This was the brightest radio flare detected. Unfortunately, not a single X-ray observation is existing. So this is the ASTROSAT light curve, and we can see this flaring and non-flaring region. So this was the observation on 16th, 15th and 16th. And these are the NICER observations, NICER and NuSTAR near simultaneous observations, which happened a few days after the detection of the major flare by AMALA. So when I come to this, so this is the ASTROSAT broadband fitting. So you can see, as we said earlier, the non-flaring is what when the flux was low and flaring was when it was higher. You can see the difference in the photon index. There is an increase in the photon index. If I see the power spectra also, that is different. The RMS estimation also shows it to be different. If I consider the follow-up NICER and NuSTAR, which happened on 21st, similar results we do observe there also. So both cases are suggesting of a spectral softening, which has resulted into ejection. Unfortunately, for the 21st, whatever happened here, the follow-up radio observation does not exist. Coming to the June, it was observed by NICER. Once again, a similar result which we are finding. There is a significant change in the spectra and the timing characteristics. And the last one is the November. So nice that NICER and SWIFT had like kind of continuous observation, and we were able to understand the spectral variation and periods. Yeah, I do have mentioned detection of a milliards QPO, which this needs to be confirmed. So this work is still under progress, and we will be completing it soon. So overall, what I want to say is during all these flares, the photon index increases, disk temperature increases, contribution of disk comes into picture, electron temperature decreases. So all these, along with that, RMS decreases. So all these are indications of spectral softening, and which is resulting into ejection of the matter into jets. So here are the salient results. during the radio flare, significant variations are observed in X-ray and summarizing it for all the sources. All these variations which I said, and we also did observe a hard tail in ASTROSAT over here. This hard tail could be due to interaction of matter ejected, whatever got ejected with the base of the jet. So an IR observation there would have helped. Yeah, I'm almost done. And so all the characters are similar to what was seen earlier in the source. Just one highlight is that we are now seeing these characteristics not, I mean, it's not just the beta or theta classes. You can see it even when there is no such class variabilities. And more broadband observations, especially continuous observation is required. ASTROSAT has been helpful to an extent. NICER is helpful now. And in the future, the broadband mission proposed by URSC ISRO should be useful. And thanks to ISRO, Respond for the funding. Thanks to SB Pandey and Girish for considering a request for participation at the last moment. And a shout out to my other collaborators, Dr. Samir Mandal, Vivek Agarwal, and Sachindra Naik. Thank you.